Question 6. What have you learnt about technologies during the process of constructing the product?
Throughout the process of constructing our product, we have learnt a lot of different things about technologies and how to use them. First off, going into the researching area of creating the opening sequence, we learnt how to do a defined search on the internet, which helped us find out about stuff such as soundtracks and how to include them in a horror film, Carl Cooper, who's a title sequence director, and existing ghost stories. That then helped us create our own ghost story within our own piece. The second technology that we used was actually watching existing opening sequences and making some notes on what we could find out. This was done through a movie day in which we watched films like Saw and The Blair Witch Project. Lastly, we did a questionnaire which helped us learn how to use Excel by creating pie charts.
Other technologies that we used were cameras. There were 3 different types of cameras that we actually used. The first was a Canon camera. This was quite a high-end camera which helped us to produce a really nice picture, although it didn't work in the dark, which means we weren't actually able to use it. The second camera were our iPhone cameras. This captured the light really nicely, which meant we were able to use it for the majority of our film and opening sequence. And the last one was our handheld camera. We used this for our title sequence because it gave us quite a grainy look, which looked nicely on our title sequence. The next thing that we did with these were experimenting with different shots, angles and movements. We did this through just playing around with the cameras and seeing what looked best. Lastly was focusing. We would put the cameras in focus or out of focus. Usually the cameras would do this themselves, but if we needed to manually do it, we would. And this would depend on the shot of the mood of the shot that we were using.
We also did quite a lot of learning when it comes to sound, and we really learnt how important the sound is within film and how it really develops a tone to the movie and enhances the different events. One of the things that we learnt most about was musicality within clips, how using music during a tense moment or using crescendos to build up tension and things like that, and using ambient sound throughout really added to the piece and made it a much more enjoyable thing to watch and create for us. We learned a lot about using it to our advantage and how to put them in exactly the right place, paralleling each other. We also learned quite a lot about using YouTube, how to really search for the things that we wanted to find and to listen and pick out what we really wanted to include within our piece. We also learned how to convert the things from YouTube, from a video, into sound so that we could put it into our piece and use it whilst we were editing, things like that. The last thing that we learned about was music within Final Cut, which there was loads of sound effects and music that we could use within our pieces. We were able to search through them all and find what was really relevant and what we wanted to include, fitting it into the right place within our clip so that they sounded effective, and cutting them to the right size so that they weren't too long or too short. We also learned about recording sound, which we used GarageBand software for, so we could record sound onto there and then import it into Final Cut Pro and use it within our scene. We learned finally about when we actually put the stuff into Final Cut Pro, we could change the volume of it so that it fades in and fades out, so that it wasn't really sharp and just coming straight away, but actually was built up, and this gave it a much better effect.
Next off is the planning process of our opening sequence. As we were A-level students, we sort of already had a basic understanding of how to use Microsoft Office and PowerPoint. However, we did still use them to create PowerPoints of what we were going to include in our opening sequence, checklists and the questionnaires that we created. This generally just helped us keep on track and keep on time with everything. What was new to us this year was using WordPress.com. This was the way in which we created blog posts for people to view and how we're going to put up these evaluation questions. Generally we just learnt how to use the whole system. We learnt how to put photos on, videos, and this helped us to record our progress.
Another type of technology we were using this time was different types of lighting. The 3 different main types of lighting that we used were our iPhone torches, actual torches and portable floodlights. Our iPhone torches created quite a nice lighting, although it was quite a white light, which created an unnatural effect, which we weren't looking for. Our torches in themselves looked quite nice if they were the yellowy light, but if they weren't, they were white light again, and they didn't look quite nice. The portable floodlights were not very good because they were again white light, and they weren't as bright as our torches or our iPhone torches. In the end, we used our iPhone torches because they were the brightest light, even though they created the most unnatural lighting. If you held it quite far away, you could get quite a nice light. The other lighting we used was the bonfire. Even though this isn't technology, it gave us the natural lighting that we were looking for and made our opening sequence look a lot better.
Lastly, we learned a lot about editing this year. We're all new to media this year, and it's like the first time we picked up this subject, so we've never really done anything to do with editing, filming and music and things like that, so it was all really new to us. We learned a lot about Final Cut Pro, which was the main source of editing that we used within our piece, and this was really beneficial to us. When we first started out with Final Cut Pro, we really didn't even know where to start because we were just so confused by it really, but we did loads of experimenting and using the different like transitions and effects and things like that, and so we've got loads of experiment videos that we put on our blog a bit earlier on that you can view, which shows like different transitions, different effects, different forms of editing, fast and slow, and this really benefited us because we were able to find out what looked the best and what applied best to our genre and things like that, so that was really beneficial to us. We also learnt how to import in the filming that we did and the music, which does seem quite basic but was actually like a real struggle for us at first because we weren't really sure what to do, but after a while we were able to just get everything in and get started working, which was good as it saved us a lot of time. We also learnt how to adjust everything to the right sizes so that the clips weren't too long or too short and we could use them like exactly how we wanted them, and obviously if you zoomed in to the like place where we were working, then you could crop them even shorter, and that really helped us out as well. We learned a lot about using tools such as crop and blade tools, obviously to shorten and lengthen the clips, and the blade tool was really helpful to us. We actually use it a lot and we did that for like flashy editing to like make things really move fast and to lengthen the endings and the beginnings of clips so that they could repeat themselves and then add to our title sequence especially. We also did a specific thing with overlapping clips during our ghost story because we thought it looked a little bit too choppy when we were going from Josh's face to the storyline over and over again. It was just a bit repetitive. So we decided that we wanted to put one of the clips in a corner of the ghost story, and we weren't really sure how we were going to do this at first, so we did get some help from a professional called Michael who works at our school, and he's really great with editing and everything. He showed us how to transform the clips and resize them so that we could use Josh's face in the corner with the rule of thirds that we used, and then use the other clip on the left hand side so that it would really make it just look much smoother. We did that by transforming and resizing like I said, and then we also added a crop and feather effect so that it just blended in better with the background. It didn't look as like two clips, it blended sort of more into one. Another thing that we learnt how to do was to detach the sound from the editing of the clips that we had, because it just really helped us, especially with the fire and the titles, because obviously that looked really like it was going from one thing to another and it just didn't really work out that well. So we thought if we detached the audio and then lengthened it so that it would repeat itself and just be the fire ongoing, it would really link the two together and it ran more smoothly, so that really helped us as well. So we did learn a lot about editing, and now we think that really shows on our opening sequence compared with our preliminary task, and we're really happy with how it turned out. We learned a lot within this process, especially to do with technologies that we didn't think we would, so we were really happy with it.
Yep.